Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
It wouldn't be the holiday season if there wasn't candy, right? Celebrate the holiday season with the Holiday Crush. They've sprinkled candy with a holiday theme and fun-packed challenges every week for 5 whole weeks, finishing on January 4th. The more challenges you complete, the better your chances of unwrapping delicious rewards. So, are you ready to crush the holidays? Play the Holiday Crush now. Download it from the App Store, Google Play, or Windows Store for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Ich warte seit Wochen auf diesen Tag und tanz vor Freude über den Asphalt. Als wär's ein Rhythmus, als gäb's ein Lied, das mich immer weiter durch die Straßen zieht. Komm dir entgegen.
Hello and welcome to Gegenpressing, the German football podcast from the Football Grad Network. I'm your host, Bryce Dunn, and as always, we'll run through the Bundesliga results from the previous weekend. So, starting on the Friday night, we had Werder Bremen 4, Schalke 2, yes, adding to the misery of Schalke once again. Into Saturday, we have Freiburg 2, Hertha Berlin 1, RB Leipzig 0, Wolfsburg 0. We thought this game would be a little bit closer. Unfortunately, it wasn't. Bayern Munich 6, Wolfsburg 0, Borussia Dortmund 3, back to winning ways. Stuttgart 1. Mainz 0. Borussia Mönchengladbach 1. Hoffenheim 2. Nuremberg 1. Hanover 2. Bayer Leverkusen 3. And then finally on Monday night, just to annoy everyone as always, Fortuna Düsseldorf 0. Eintracht Frankfurt 3. So yes, that does it for the weekend results. Joining me as always, but from Germany this time, no, not Manu Veth, but Chris Williams. Chris, how are you?
I'm very well, Bryce. It might not be Manu who you're speaking to in Germany, but I'm in fact in Manu's house, so it's all a little bit strange.
Yeah, what exactly is going on? It's all very different this week, but yeah, as we know, he's back in Canada after his time in Germany. Manu Veth also joins us.
Yeah, it's all a bit topsy-turvy. Chris is recording this very podcast from the room I grew up in.
I am indeed. And there's some nice pictures of Manu with long hair, which I won't embarrass him and put online.
I can't wait to see those on Twitter tomorrow.
Oh, please, let's see those, eh? I'm sure all the listeners would enjoy it as well. Anyway, I suppose we've got plenty of football to talk about, guys, and it is late on Monday night, so we should probably get cracking, really. So on Friday night, we've seen Werder Bremen 4, Schalke 2. Schalke's season just goes from bad to worse, doesn't it, Manu? But Tedesco seems to be keeping his job, well, for now anyway.
Yeah, it looks like it. The decision was made after the game. So actually it was already made before the game that the decision whether Tedesco can continue or not will not depend on the result, but rather by the way Schalke will conduct themselves on the pitch in terms of how are they going to play, the body language, the type of football they're going to play. And I guess the new sporting director, Jochen Schneider, saw enough in this performance to say, okay, look, we're going to keep working with Tedesco. Now, of course, this means he will just get, another 2 games, the City game, where I guess this is not going to be result-based either. And then the away game on the weekend, next weekend, to really determine his future. But for now, he's staying. I think it's actually not a bad decision in this regard, because I thought that they actually played quite well against Werder Bremen. Breel coming back from yet another injury. For the first time, I think, since he's joined Schalke, you could tell why they paid 30 million euros for him. I think he was excellent. And, yes, they conceded 4 goals, but that 4th goal came in at a time when they were really pressing for the 3rd goal to equalize the game. So this could actually have gone either way. And I think when you really look at this performance, I can see why the board decided, okay, look, this is a young coach. We want to give him a chance. let's keep working with him. At the same time, I mean, the relegation zone is now 4 points away. I think they were a little fortunate that Stuttgart dropped points this weekend, because otherwise it would look very, very dangerous for them. But I mean, my question mark is if they get rid of Tedesco right now, who is really going to come in that can come in and fix the situation and make it better? At the same time, I think Tedesco will need results very quickly.
Yeah, he certainly will. He's going to have to improve things rather quickly. I mean, that 4 points is rather narrow down that end of the table, and they were helped out by the other two teams below them not picking up 3 points at the weekend. Chris, what's your opinion on the whole Schalke scenario? I mean, we've kind of talked, haven't we, over the last few weeks or even longer now, that, you know, we're a little bit surprised that Tedesco's been managing to keep his job, you know, after finishing second last year, and now they're right down the other end of the table.
Yeah, I can understand why they might want to keep him, because as Manu said, who do they bring in? But if all you can say after being beaten 4-2 by Werder Bremen is you think the side have played a little better, I don't really know if there's much future in it. I can't see them getting anything out of the City game, and then, well, after that, it's a 90-minute shootout, I think, for Domenico Tedesco. If they don't get a good result in a good fashion, I do think he could go this weekend, because although he's been backed, and he has been publicly backed, how long will that last for him? And Manu's quite right, he'll probably get 2 or 3 games. And yeah, I think a poor performance midweek, followed up by a similar performance on the weekend, would see him go. I mean, he did do quite well. He did shift his tactics, change the shape after 15 minutes, which allowed them to score a goal. So he has obviously got the ability to coach, but it's just that they don't seem to be getting anything. And we're on about a side who finished second last year, who are now who are now in 14th place on 23 points, and 15th place Augsburg are behind them on 22. It's I mean, could they go from finishing second to finishing 15th? I mean, that would be terrible, I would think. And if that's not a sign of someone about to lose their job, I don't really know what is.
Yeah, facing Leipzig next weekend too. I mean, this is not exactly an easy task. I think the City game, you know, if they get anything out of that, that will be close to a miracle. But then the Leipzig game, and Leipzig have struggled to score themselves in the last few weeks, but they almost never get scored against either. So this is going to be a very, very tough task for Tedesco. And I think they need to win that game, because you look at the games that the other sides have. Stuttgart looked much improved this weekend than the weekend before that. And Augsburg play Hannover. You know, it is feasible that both sides can pick up 3 points. And if Schalke don't, then they're really in relegation trouble. I mean, like really in relegation trouble. Then they're right in it. And I think that is something that this club at the moment can simply not afford.
Well, Chris, so we'll go back to you on this one. I mean, obviously Manu touched a little bit on the midweek game against City, and yes, it's going to be very hard to go to the Etihad, you know, when City have already scored 3 away goals, that first leg finishing 3-2. Do you think that there's, firstly, any way that they could possibly pull something off? I mean, for a little period, too, in the first leg, there seemed to be a bit more hope than what we had anticipated. And I suppose, secondly, is if they were to stay in the Champions League somehow, does that actually do Tedesco any favours? And does it do the players and the club any favours when it comes to the league?
I can't see them getting anything positive out of this game. And I think it's because they've got the 2 goals. Had it been 3-0, I think Pep Guardiola may have been tempted to rest more players than he probably will. And let's not forget, Manchester City can rest 11 players and still put out 11 players who can get to the final stages of the Champions League, such as their squad and such as their ability. I think if it would have been a 3-0, then he would have been tempted to play maybe some of his younger players. But I just think that Manchester City will want to get the job done very quickly, so then he could then rotate and take valuable players off. So I wouldn't be surprised to see City run into a 2 or even a 3-0 lead by half-time. And I think that would be a blessing in disguise for Schalke, so they can just concentrate on this Bundesliga relegation fight they're in. If they were to get through to the next round, I think it's a distraction for them. And I wouldn't normally say that about the Champions League, but you don't normally find teams playing in the Champions League fighting for relegation. So it's a bit of a strange one. Of course, it would be nice for the club because they're not going to get this next season. And you may even argue the season after that. So take it for what it is. But I think maybe for long-term stability, they need to come out of that competition and solely concentrate on the Bundesliga, because you're quite right. Not only do they have Leipzig, they've got some really big games coming up. They've got, you're going to almost call it a 6-pointer against Hanover on match day 27. And then they host Eintracht Frankfurt, who are doing so well. So there's 3 difficult games back to back if you include the Leipzig one. I just worry for them that the Champions League would be a distraction, and if they were to somehow miracle get through against Manchester City, I think 9 points in those 3 games would be a lot more benefit to Schalke as a club than the quarter-final stages of the Champions League.
Yeah, very true. You don't get a relegation battle while trying to play in the Champions League very often, do you? Let's go into the Saturday games, guys. This cut Schalke some slack, I think, for now. And start talking off about Bayern. Obviously, a fantastic victory at home, 6-0 against Wolfsburg. But Manu, quite the reaction to something regarding international football that seemed to, spark a bit of controversy and upset Bayern. What exactly happened there?
Bit of controversy. Joachim Löw, the Bundestrainer in person, has decided and publicly announced that he will no longer call up Mats Hummels, Jerome Boateng and Thomas Müller to the German national team. He's effectively retired the 3 of them. Earlier this week, this announcement was made right before the Wolfsburg game. He actually traveled to Munich. Apparently the 3 were ushered back to back into the room, and in a 5-minute conversation each were told that they no longer feature in his plans. And from what I hear, Müller and Boateng just got up and walked out of the room. Hummels actually asked why. He wanted to know why, and he was given an explanation. We don't know exactly what that explanation was. Boateng right away took to social media and said, okay, he accepts that decision. He's upset about it, but he accepts it. Müller went on social media the next day in a 2.5-minute long video and called the entire process shameful. He was upset about the decision and the finality of the decision. I think all 3 would have been okay with them not being called up, but maybe getting a chance to play themselves back into the side. So that caused a lot of controversy. The Bayern, the club as well, of course, they reacted. They said they didn't quite understand the process. They didn't think the process was fair. They didn't think that Löw, the timing was all right. They pointed out this could have been done in November, right after the last national team game. In fact, when Löw said that those 3 will be part of the rebuild of the German national team. So they kind of wondering about the way all of this message was transported to the players. I personally, this is my personally reaction to all of this, because there's a lot of people online that have said, well, those 3 players need to be cut. There's a lot of people that said, the national team needs a rebuild and said this in public, but then at the same time criticized the way this was done. I think Löw going there in person and talking to the players, what else do you expect? It wasn't a phone call. It wasn't just a public announcement. He went down there and told them in person. And for Bayern, and I know this is probably something that I know the club has to go and protect its players. I understand that, and I think they're quite right in doing this. But at the same time, when you look at Hummels and Boateng, those are 2 players, right, that have been criticized by the club, and they've been rotated in and out of the squad anyways. The 2 of them might not even be in Bayern's squad next year anymore because of Pavard coming in and Lucas Hernandez likely coming in as well, right? So Bayern might actually do the exact same thing to those 2 players than Joachim Löw just did regarding the national team. So for me, it's like, I understand why Bayern put out this note and saying, well, we don't like the way this was done because they have to protect their players. But at the same time, I'm really curious what you think about this, Chris, because for me, it's football, and the German national team hasn't been playing well in 2 years. The only time they did play well was in the 2017 FIFA Confederations Cup, which they won. Neither of those players featured. We all said we want to have a major rebuild, and as a coach, you have to make tough decisions that are no different than what a club coach has to make at times. And I actually think that Bayern will make the very same decision very soon as well.
It wouldn't be the holiday season if there wasn't candy, right? Celebrate the holiday season with the Holiday Crush. They've sprinkled candy with a holiday theme and fun-packed challenges every week for 5 whole weeks, finishing on January 4th. The more challenges you complete, the better your chances of unwrapping delicious rewards. So, are you ready to crush the holidays? Play the Holiday Crush now. Download it from the App Store, Google Play, or Windows Store for free. Terms and conditions apply.
It's a strange one because, I mean, if you look at Müller, he's only 29, so by the time the Euros come along, he could potentially have still played a part. Boateng and Hummels are 30, so if we've got eyes on the next World Cup, I would argue that 34 is, 34, 33 is too old to play World Cup football, especially in 40-degree heat in Qatar. Whether the stadiums are air conditioned or not, I think just the whole humidity and being there would be too much for a professional footballer in their early to mid 30s. But there is a lot of finality around it, isn't there? That's it. That they're cut, and there's no way of coming back. And I mean, if Joachim Löw was to undergo some sort of major injury crisis, how would he go about drafting any one of those 3 players back in for any of the qualifying games at some point? I just think maybe it is a little too early, but I understand why he's done it. But then I don't understand the timing because Bayern have got some big games. I don't think it's been helped that Bild also ran an exclusive, and I believe they ran their exclusive online just as the 3rd player was being told. So maybe Joachim Löw's hands were tied a little bit, but then why were the leaks coming out? Before the players had been told. It's a messy situation, I think, if you're going to cut 3 players who've been as good as those 3 have for the German national side over the past, many plentiful years full of trophies as well and full of wonderful performances. So it's almost like ripping a sticking plaster off, isn't it? And you've got to do it maybe in the quickest way, but I just think it's a strange time to do it with Bayern for the Bundesliga title and also going for the treble, really, aren't they? So I can understand why Bayern weren't particularly happy about it, but has it played into their hands because they've gone out and absolutely battered Wolfsburg in an act of defiance? And Manu, you put that as your headline title for the match report, and I fully agree with it. I suppose only time will tell, but whilst I can see why it's been done and it needed to be done, I'm just unsure about the timing. Yeah,
I think that is maybe the only thing that maybe he had to do it that way because it was going to get leaked. Personal discussions with the president of the DFB, the very controversial Grindel, who issued statements. So maybe that was something going on in the background. I can understand why Bayern are defensive about it. I just think that players get cut in football all the time. It's unfortunately how the sport works. And sometimes the human aspect of it is very cold. And in this regard, it was. And I do to some degree actually agree with you, Chris, that I wouldn't have maybe made it this final. I would have said, okay, look, I'm not going to call you up. I want to play other players, young players. I want to give them a chance. I thank you for all the services, but I would have left myself a back door open because you never know. What if Thomas Müller all of a sudden now for the rest of the season shoots the lights out like he did in this game against Wolfsburg? He was excellent. Do you really want to shut that door? I'm not sure, but at the same time, Müller hasn't really performed for the national team since the European, like even in the Euros in 2016. Since that tournament, he's only scored 4 goals for Germany. So it's such a tough one. You can really argue it one way or the other.
Manu, just quickly before we pass over on the subject, what's the reaction been like in Germany? What do the German fans think of this decision? Do they think, yeah, it's about time, or do they think that these players still have more to offer?
I think there's been a bit of everything. I think there's been understanding. There's been people that saying, well, this has been overdue. There's also been a lot of people saying the way it was done was too harsh. The finality of it, not correct. Löw was both praised for going there in person to tell them, but also criticized for it. I think people are very much on the fence, and I think that reflects the mood in general. I think this national team needs change, Bryce. I actually think that when you look at the way he's changing this team, Thomas Müller's position, for example, doesn't exist anymore in the new 3-4-3 system. Where are you going to put him? I mean, this is the problem. I mean, they're no longer going to play possession football, and they're no longer going to need a false number 9. The entire setup is changing. So I think that is a big issue. We saw it against the Netherlands in the last national team game, where they played very well until Müller came on, and the entire game and everything changed. And I don't want to blame Müller for not winning that game, but at the same time, it just wasn't a good fit. So if he's going forward with this, and I think this is where a lot of people are saying, like, look, Germany needs to change, but at the same time, the way it was done was not quite the right 100% way to do it.
Yeah, so the controversy continues. But Chris, I want to then go to you and ask you, obviously this was quite the victory for Bayern, 6-0. I mean, a lot of us predicted that would be somewhat closer. Bayern really are on a roll in the league at the moment. And was this result coming definitely a reaction from the Bayern players to get such a victory?
I think it's a bit of both, really, because the Bayern players, and they're a close-knit squad, would have wanted to back their own teammates and send a message out to Joachim Löw, and I think they did that. But on the second notion, they also knew that a heavy win or a big victory would take them to the top of the table on goal difference, and I think they knew that anyway. And there was even mention of that on the last game. I can't quite remember who said it, but one of the players spoke in the mix zone and spoke about how now the title was almost falling into their own hands. They knew what they needed to do, which was go out and win and match Dortmund for point wise, but score more goals than them. And that's pretty much what they did this weekend. I don't think anybody expected 6, did they? I thought maybe it would have been 3, possibly 4, but yeah, 6 is a real statement, and a big statement, not just to Borussia Dortmund, but to also Liverpool, who are travelling there this week.
Yeah, Bryce, I got to cover this game, and boy, they were good. I mean, they were really, really good. It was almost an old school performance in the way that they could just, they were able to really stamp their authority on this match in a way that I have not seen really in a couple of years. And yes, it was Wolfsburg, a side that they really like to play against, but I mean 6-0. And Wolfsburg are playing a good season. They're not the Wolfsburg of last year or the year before. They're actually playing a very good season. And that is emphatic. I mean, this is an impressive result. And when I did the Bayern Liverpool preview for Fußballstadt, they have now scored 18-4 goals in the last 5 games. You know, they put 5 past Gladbach last week. I mean, they are on a roll. They are almost like the old school Bayern side. And I think the most impressive thing for me is that how Kovac went from this person that seemed to be on his way out to the guy who basically put his authority on this dressing room. That's not an easy dressing room to handle. And with these results that he has right now, I mean, look, we're talking about Bayern possibly winning the treble. I know that dream could go out of the window on Wednesday night. That's a real possibility, but we're talking about it again. And about 2 months ago, in the beginning of February, that would have been a joke, right? But the last 5 games, they have been the Bayern of old. They're very, very impressive. And when I look at their schedule, I don't really see where they could stumble before match day 32. Even the game against Dortmund, if Dortmund, the way Dortmund are playing, I think right now Bayern will absolutely smash them too.
Yeah, they really are on a roll, aren't they? And credit to Kovac. I think he's done a hell of a job and absolutely true. At one point, it looked like he was a goner. But Chris, then to talk about the Wednesday night game, how do you see that one going exactly? I mean, both teams are up the top end of their tables, with a title challenge online. Do you see that affecting either sides, or both sides will still be out, full guns blazing, to challenge on every front?
Yeah, I think you've got 2 teams here who will look at the Champions League as a competition that they can now win, especially if you look who went out last week. I think both these sides now will fancy their chances of going all the way. I spoke to a couple of English sites this week and said that I feel that the winner of the competition comes from this week of the Champions League. And that's no disrespect to anybody that played last week, which includes Ajax and Tottenham Hotspur. But I do think that the eventual champion comes from this side of the draw that we're going to see this week. And Bayern and Liverpool have got a really good chance. I mean, Bayern have fallen at the latter stages to Real Madrid quite a few times recently. Liverpool were obviously beaten by Real Madrid last season. Real Madrid are obviously out. So both these sides will think they can win it, and both the sides are obviously still going for their own respective domestic titles. So yeah, I now at the moment don't see either of these two sides thinking, I think we'll just concentrate on the league. I'm hoping we'll get a very open game and a very high scoring game, and one that we all like to watch the Champions League for a reason, and let's hope it's that. Could be 2-2, could be 3-2, could be 2-3, could be anything. I'm just hoping for a really interesting match to watch on Wednesday night. Obviously, I'm over here in Munich, hoping that the weather turns a little bit better. Maybe not as cold. It's very cold here. So if we do have any fans from England or fans from across the world that are coming over, make sure you bring a hat, some gloves and some thermal underwear.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I was in Liverpool at the weekend, and Chris, it was cold there, but I still have a feeling it's nothing like it's going to be in Munich. Let's move on then and talk about Dortmund. Dortmund played Stuttgart the weekend. They did take the lead from a penalty in the second half, and then it looked like things were going to pan out a little bit like they have too often recently, with Stuttgart getting an equaliser on the 71st minute. But then on came Christian Pulisic to assist and to score, and they got a hard-fought battle at 3-1. Manu, it's obviously great for Dortmund to be back in winning ways, and to have to battle it out. That can be a good thing for players mentally, I believe. But if you look at the table, it's now quite difficult for them maybe to accept that Bayern, with that massive victory, have crawled just above them.
Yeah, or maybe it's a relief, to no longer be the team hunted, that you can now go and switch over to being the team hunting. That can be beneficial, and I think the reactions by different players after the Stuttgart match was quite telling. Brun Larsen, for example, saying we were first for so long, now we want to win the championship. And you heard that from quite a few players, that they now want to actually win the title. And I think maybe, don't want to go into the psychological aspects of the game too much, but that lead has been shrinking ever since February 2nd, and with Bayern now overtaking them, and them finally winning a game against one of those bottom sides. Maybe the monkey's a little bit off the back, and they now got a week off. Then they got a game, of course, this weekend, a winnable game on the road. This Saturday, the Topspiel against Hertha. Not an easy game, but a winnable game. And then they got an international break, right? To just sort themselves out. And for Favre is a coach who needs time to work and just work on those things. Maybe the international break could actually kind of favor them, because it could take, and this all will depend on what Bayern will do on Wednesday. I think for Bayern, the game on Wednesday is season defining. If they go through against Liverpool, I think they're going to win the title in the Bundesliga as well. No way they will not win the title, because they're not going to lose another game this season in any competition. I know this is a big prediction, but I'm going with it. But if Bayern lose that game, it could kind of be like the deflating moment, right? It could be really deflating for them. And then they have that game, and then they have an international break, and a bunch of players are no longer called up for the Germany squad. And all of a sudden they get to go think about that. And I think that's going to be an interesting aspect. So I think for Dortmund, maybe this could be a monkey off the back kind of moment. It's like, okay, Bayern have caught up to us. This is it. Let's just go and focus on winning games again. Let's not try to focus on keeping the gap open. Let's just try to focus on winning games again. Work on the pitch. Play good football. And I think they showed some of that even on that Saturday game against Stuttgart. What
about you, Chris? Do you agree with Manu that this is possibly a good thing for the players mentally to now not be leading the pack? It might kick them into life again, give them a bit of urgency. And then I suppose going on also to ask them, do you see them in a few match days' time being able to take it to Bayern and beat them? Because from what we're looking at the moment, it just looks like Bayern may actually not lose again this season.
I think I'll reserve judgment on that until I've seen them play Hertha Berlin away, because whilst this was a good win and a much needed win, I think the equaliser by Kempf, especially from the header from the aerial ball, showed that Dortmund are still a little weak, and weaknesses like that can be exploited in a title run-in. Now, I do agree that this particular Dortmund squad, it might be better for them to play catch-up almost, and they may feel a little bit more comfortable doing that, because, very old famous phrase in football is, it's quite easy to get to the top, it's staying there. That's when you encounter a problem, and Bayern have been at the very top for the last 6 seasons, and maybe Dortmund are just not used to that, and it's been strange for this group of players to have to deal with the intensity and the pressure of that, and maybe they are more suited for catching Dortmund, and I think we'll see now over the game against Hertha, and then how they come back from the international break. You would hope, for Dortmund's sake, that they don't get any niggles or injuries during that international break, and then of course we're heading on to the time where the two sides are going to meet in the Allianz, which I think will be a title decider. Whoever wins that, I think, could go on and win the league. But yeah, I do agree with Manu. This week is a very big week for Bayern, because if they do crash out of the Champions League, then I think some of the negativity that we saw around Kovac, not from within the squad themselves, but from some of the media around him, maybe from some of the fans questioning, and how do they respond to that? And they've only then got one match themselves before they go into a break, and you wouldn't want to go into that break with a defeat and negativity around them. If we think back to the last international break, I think we thought, would Niko Kovac survive it? And look where he is now. So yeah, I think the next 3 to 4 weeks are crucial for the whole of this competition, for the Bundesliga, and it's going to be very interesting as a neutral to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be very entertaining, isn't it? And you're just even looking at the table at the moment and seeing two teams at the top on the same points it's just great entertainment for it. It makes for a change, doesn't it? And yes, so that midweek game is going to be just as exciting. Let's go on to the Sunday games, guys, and talk about something you don't see very often in football, but it's a hard pill to swallow when it does happen. And this is not Bayer Leverkusen winning. That's not what I'm referring to, but they did win 3-2 against Hanover, but there was an awful lot of snow. The pitch was, absolutely caked and stuff, and there was a ball being passed through to an open goal by Haraguchi, and it stopped 1 foot short of the line. And with the game being 3-2, you've really got to feel hard done by, don't you, for Hanover in this scenario, Manu?
Yeah, we've been playing that Simon and Garfunkel song a lot. I think this would have been the perfect moment to actually use it. Make that black and white and see the ball roll towards the goal line. Haraguchi already running off, celebrating, and then it stops on the line because of the snow, while Hannover battling against relegation in a game that, when you look at the table now, that's it. That was the final chance. It's heart-wrenching. DW, Deutsche Welle, put up a good video on this, and I showed it to my wife Becky today, and she said she doesn't want to see this. This is depressing. So even non-football fans find this depressing. I watched this and I just thought, wow, this is just, when you're already down the bottom, it can't get any worse. But I think at the same time, you have to remember while these moments are the moments that stick in our minds, we're talking about a Bundesliga side here that in 25 games has collected 14 points. Yes, Haraguchi could have scored. They could have maybe gotten a point, and it would have been 15 points of 12 out of 25 games. That's not good enough. That's not good enough to play in this league. And I think when you look at the way this Hannover side was put together, and this is an Hannover side that already in the Rückrunde of last season struggled. I think they only got 10 points out of 17 games. The trend was already there that they were not strong enough to play in this league already before the season started, and they didn't do enough to battle that trend. I mean, I think for me, they are a typical Bundesliga 2 side. In the way the squad is put together, not as a city and not as a club, but in the way the squad is put together. And I think that's just telling. I mean, yes, it's heart-wrenching and sad and all that to show this video in slow motion, and you focus in on Thomas Doll's depressed face and all that. But I mean, the reality is this goal is not going to be the moment where Hannover was relegated.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, isn't it? You do remember these moments, but you don't. Well, you seem to forget the moments that they were so bad, this season, and just real question of quality. Chris, if we just talk about them for one final second, they play Wolfsburg coming up in the next match day. Will they see this as a possibility to get points and drag somebody else down into a similar scenario as them, or is Manu right? It's probably a little too late now.
I think it's probably too late, and all that result would have done on the weekend is made a sickening season a little bit more sicker for them. Whilst I do have some sympathy for Haraguchi, it's not like it had just started snowing the moment when he took that shot. I think all players know that the ball affects, or snow affects the roll of the ball. Just kick it a bit harder and it goes in. I think had it been a muddy pitch, he probably would have kicked it a bit harder because he would have known about it. But it was a close game, wasn't it? But I probably think that's down to the snow rather than Bayer Leverkusen's inability to deal with Hanover. Manu and yourself are quite right. They've been dreadful all season, and that's what they'll go down on. But yeah, I do think that all the Sunday's match will have done is made an awful season worse for them, and that goal not going in is pretty much the kick in the balls that will send them down, and unfortunate it is, but yeah, that's football.
Yeah, very unfortunate. But I suppose let's speak about Bayer Leverkusen a little bit. Manu, I'm sure you're very happy that they seem to have turned things around this season, but maybe a little bit too late for a title challenge. But they may be challenging for a top 4 place at the moment. With this victory as well, they play Werder Bremen next week. Obviously, a very tough opponent to come up against, but yet the things are still looking good for them. They're on quite a run, aren't they? As far as I'm aware, they've picked up more points than anybody else apart from Bayern in 2019.
Yeah, you should have hired Peter Bosch right in the beginning of the season. Maybe my prediction ahead of the season would look a little better. Yeah, no, I think that Leverkusen are the side to watch in this part of the season. And I think if there wasn't an Eintracht Frankfurt side right ahead of them, we're going to get to talk about in a moment, their prospects to get into the Champions League would be quite good. I think right now, the 4 points doesn't seem like a lot, but the fact that, I think there's only one Champions League spot to be had. I think that Leipzig are going to nail down that third spot. And I think that Gladbach are the side most likely as to fall out of the race. Yes, they did beat Mainz, to finally turn the tide, but I mean, they have not been very good in the last few weeks. And for me, they're the side that will fall out of there. So that's one Champions League spot open, but I think that when you look at the side that is right in front of them in Frankfurt, what we get to talk about in a moment, I'm going to really enjoy talking about them because they're one of the most fun sides to watch in Germany at the moment. I just think it's going to be a little tough to match that pace. Maybe the one bonus that Leverkusen have is that they're no longer in Europe, and I think there's a good chance that Frankfurt will go very deep in Europe as well.
Yeah, that may work to their benefit, mightn't it, at Leverkusen? But you're absolutely right. Let's talk about the Monday night game then, and about Eintracht Frankfurt. So yes, none of us enjoy a Monday night game, hence we're potting rather late, and the fans are probably still trying to get home from this one. But it did go ahead. It was 3-0 in the end. It was a close affair, wasn't it, Chris? We see 2 goals from Sebastian Haller right at the end as he came off the bench. A game that maybe you would have suspected, even though both teams were in decent form, that Eintracht would probably win. It was somewhat closer than that.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot closer, and Fortuna had a goal chalked off early on through offside, correctly chalked off. Then they had a penalty initially given, which was then rescinded by the referee after VAR, which I think was once again was the right decision on looking at it a number of times. So they had their chances, but Eintracht Frankfurt are doing what Eintracht Frankfurt do at the moment, which is just putting in a professional display. And when it was 1-0, I messaged the pair of you and said that I think Fortuna deserved to get something out of this, and the next thing, it's 3-0, and that changed in a matter of moments. I just done the full-time image. Matthew Marshall was there at the Meckerspiel Arena for Sportsstart this evening. His talking points will be up soon, and I just done the final image, which was 1-0, and that was, I think it was 85 minutes gone. But 2 very late goals made it 3-0, and that's just what Frankfurt are at the moment. They're very professional, and I think they knew that a victory would take them back above Bayer Leverkusen in that hunt for what is the only available open Champions League spot, I think. And Manny's quite right with Gladbach. I think that's maybe what propelled Frankfurt on, because how important could those 2 extra goals be in added time come the end of the season?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Chris, because sorry, Bryce, for interrupting, because I think you're 100% right. That goal differential is almost an extra point, isn't it? Because we saw that last year with Dortmund and Leverkusen. Remember, Dortmund only made that 4th spot because of the goal differential on the final day of the season. Stöger Ball, we all remember Stöger Ball. Dortmund were horrendous at times, and it was literally only thanks to, I think it was 1 goal, right? Remember, we were both standing in the Olympia Stadium, we were watching the results, and it was 1 goal that made the difference in the end of the day.
Yeah, it was, and if you look around the table, Frankfurt have got excellent. They've got a plus 20, but Leverkusen have got a plus 9, and Gladbach have got plus 14. So it might well come down to that. If both teams are locked on the same points, Frankfurt and Gladbach, at the end of the season, then getting those extra goals in added time, and Frankfurt do score a lot of late goals, and if it gets them a Champions League spot, everything will have been worth it.
Well, that's exactly it. It's going to be a close old battle for 4th place, as we see RB Leipzig 46 points, Gladbach 46 points, Eintracht Frankfurt 43, and Leverkusen on 42. It's going to go to the wire, this one, I feel, with only 2 positions up for grabs out of those 4. Manu, we've seen Eintracht play midweek, Thursday night, against Inter, 0-0. What was your thoughts on this? Is this a positive result for Eintracht? Do you fancy them to progress after the second leg?
Well, we did this. We had the same discussion after the Liverpool-Bayern game, right? That the team that manages 0-0 draw. I didn't know this before this game, by the way. The team that manages a 0-0 draw on the road actually has a 65.46% chance of advancing historically and based on historic results in European competitions. I didn't notice. I always thought that getting a 0-0 at home actually puts you in advantage because it means you can draw 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, 4-4, etc. on the road and still advance, right? And I think having watched Frankfurt a few times this season, having covered their game against Shakhtar Donetsk in the previous round, I think that they're always good for a goal. I think that although the odds are kind of slightly against them based on historic results, they will have 13,500 Eintracht Frankfurt fans in Milan. I mean, that number, let that sink in for a moment. They have 13,500 fans on the road to Italy. It will be a home game for them in Italy for them. Because the Eintracht fans, they're going to take over that stadium. They're going to make the stadium theirs. They're going to have that 100% support. And on top of that, they played against Fortuna Düsseldorf with a rotated side. Now, they didn't have, Sebastian Haller came on late because Paciencia, the striker who they bought in the summer from Porto, he missed most of the season injured, and Freddy Bobic looks like he found another gem because this guy has scored 2 goals in 4 games. And when you go by minutes, it's even better because he's only played about 100 minutes, right? He seems like another very good addition in attack, a very good, strong, tall, athletic striker who can make a difference. And all of a sudden they have that option on top of what they already have. I can see them getting a result in Italy and advance. And that's all they need. At the moment, they just need a result. And I think they're going to get it, and they're going to get to the quarterfinals of the Europa League. And once you're in the quarterfinals, then there's 8 teams left, and I think everything is possible.
Yeah, absolutely. That was going to be then my question to Chris. I mean, does he fancy them on Thursday night to do the job over Inter? And then, I mean, what should we start to believe if they do that they can go on and win this competition?
Yeah, we've said for the last few weeks that this Eintracht Frankfurt side have built and have got the squad to win over 2 legs against good sides, maybe sides you would think that they may struggle against, or maybe too equally balanced. And then, the Europa League finals, a one-off game in Baku, and that is anybody's game on that particular night. But yeah, Manu's right. They're going to take a lot of fans with them, and to be honest, they're going to take a Europa League final allocation size crowd with them, because UEFA moved some years ago to hold the Europa League in smaller stadiums. I went to the Liverpool-Sevilla game in Basel, which doesn't hold that many, and the allocation for Sevilla fans was a lot less than what Eintracht Frankfurt will take to Milan this coming week. So yeah, that they're going to be backed 100%. And yeah, I'm a little bit like Manu. I sometimes think that if you have a 0-0 and you go away, then obviously the favourite would then be with the hosts who are playing at home in the second leg in their stadium. But that away side only needs a goal, so it's going to be that's going to be a very tight match, and one that I will be rushing to make sure I'm back in England to watch. I leave here Thursday afternoon, so I should be back in time to watch that match, because I think it's going to be excellent. And yeah, if they get through, why can't they go on and win it? Because they've got just as much chance as anybody else, because look at the way they're playing. Yeah,
absolutely. They've always got the firepower, don't they, to score. So a goal in Italy, well, you never know, eh? Let's see how that all works out. Plenty of European action this week with German sides in it to keep you entertained. But and that more or less does it for the Bundesliga coverage as well. But we're going to drop down for a moment. And Manu, you wanted to talk about a particular derby.
Yeah, the Hamburg Stadtderby. It's actually, we don't do this. We used to do the Bundesliga 2 all the time. Unfortunately, time restrictions don't allow to do it as often as we want to, but there was a big game in Bundesliga 2, and the Hamburg Stadtderby. This is, of course, only the second time in history this happened in the second division. Yeah, joke is on Hamburg. They got relegated last year for the first time in history, and unfortunately for St. Pauli, didn't quite work out the way I think they hoped it would at home at the Millantor. The return was 0-0. This one on Sunday, 4-0 for Hamburg. Hamburger SV. What a result for them, because that puts them on 50 points, 7-point clear. Because this was actually a promotion match as well, Bryce. This was a match that there wasn't just honor on the line. It wasn't just a city derby. It wasn't just Hamburg, the team of the rich, of the city, of the, in the Volksparkstadion against this underdog from the Millantor, from the red light district of St. Pauli, this punk team from St. Pauli. This was actually a game for promotion, and Hamburg now are 7 points clear of St. Pauli of that 4th place spot. Of course, they're still only 3 points clear of Union Berlin. Another team that, we actually kind of hope, I hope that maybe goes up, because we love city derbies. There's not enough of them in the Bundesliga. But yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot of attention on this game. And I think when you look at the final result, and, St. Pauli fans, and there's a lot of them worldwide, will be very disappointed with this, but it does look like Hamburg are on their way back to the Bundesliga.
It sure does, and Cologne, which will keep me rather happy as well. Be good to see them back in the Bundesliga. But Manu, this wasn't the only derby that you wanted to mention. A certain derby in Munich as well.
Yeah, I'm very sad. I went to the return match of this game, the so-called S-Bahn derby, and it's called the S-Bahn derby because Giesing, where 1860 play, and Unterhaching, where of course Unterhaching play in the suburb of Munich, is only one S-Bahn stop apart. So, for those who don't know what the S-Bahn is, it's the equivalent of the Overground in London, Bryce. It's like the suburban train system in Munich that we have. We have an underground, we have a suburban train system in Munich. So for those who don't know what an S-Bahn is, that's what it is. So it's a suburban train derby. Of course, it's not as big as the Münchner Derby, which is the derby between 1860 and Bayern. Similar to the Stadtderby, of course, in Hamburg. We haven't had that game in a while, and unfortunately the two teams are separated by 2 divisions. But it's still a game that, interestingly enough, 1860 fans take very serious. And I'm saying 1860 fans because there isn't that many Unterhaching fans. Maybe saying that because I'm an 1860 fan. But this is a big game on the weekend. And Chris, I'm absolutely super jealous that you get to go, because you are in it for a treat on Tuesday night, and then you're in it for another treat on Wednesday night. And you get to go to the Grünwalder Stadion, which is the historic stadium. This used to be the home for both 1860 and Bayern, a stadium that was built in 1912. Still looks the same way. There's now talk and potential plans to renovate and refurbish the stadium so that 1860 can play there permanently right downtown where the club is at home. But yeah, you get to see a very old school ground. I hope you are dressed very warm, because the Grünwalder is also built on a hill, the Giesinger Berg, as they call it, and the wind can just blow right in. But I think you're going to be in for a treat nonetheless.
Yeah, I can't wait. Is it the biggest match in Munich this week? I think it could well be, because both sets of supporters are from Munich, aren't they? Bayern a little like Liverpool, they drag their supporters from all over Germany and all over the world. So as far as Munich residents go, this will probably be the biggest match this week, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm almost as excited for this match as I am for the game on Wednesday, because I do like a derby match, and we've both been, you've been many times, but Bryce and I, we've both been to lower league matches in Germany, and the atmosphere is better than the Bundesliga, and that might be hard to fathom for some of our listeners who we'll only get to watch the Bundesliga and we'll get to hear the tremendous atmospheres that go, through the speakers for wherever they are in the world. But Bundesliga 2's got some excellent atmosphere, and Dry Liga's got excellent atmosphere, and I can't wait for this. This is going to be a real treat for me, and maybe the best warm-up match I could have asked for Wednesday night's Champions League clash.
Yeah, the timing is actually amazing when you think about it, to have this on Tuesday and then the game on the outskirts of Munich against Liverpool, between Bayern and Liverpool. I think timing-wise, for anyone who's traveling, I don't want to give people who don't have a ticket yet for this S-Bahn derby too much hope to get a ticket, because 1860 tickets are very, very difficult to get. It's a very small stadium, and even though they play only in the third division, they sell out every single game. But maybe if you really want to try your luck around the stadium, maybe there is someone who can sell it to you. But I warn you, last year when they played in the promotion playoffs against Saarbrücken, tickets went on the black market for 2,500 euros.
Oh, wow. Jeez. I'm going to be honest, I'm not that surprised, though, with the support that they do have in Munich. And yeah, I think the both of us will be very jealous of Chris, but certainly wrap up warm. Guys, that almost does it for this week. But Manu, we're going to go back to you and obviously go to Team of the Week. So do you want to rhyme off your Team of the Week? Then we'll go to Chris.
Yeah, we've actually because with all the topics that we have, we're a little bit short on time this week, Bryce. So Chris and we cheated. We agreed on a Team of the Week ahead of time. So the Team of the Week that we decided on was Kobel in goal again. Excellent from the young Swiss keeper in the Augsburg goal. He's been very good for a couple of weeks now. Then defense, Halstenberg. Leipzig have some problems attack, but they have no problems in defense, and Halstenberg was excellent once again. Then Tar and Elvedi. Tar, he will be happy that the decision of Hummels and Boateng no longer in the national team. I think he will be a candidate to make the squad for the upcoming World Cup, for the European qualifiers. In midfield, we had Kruse. I guess he is kind of a midfielder, attacking midfielder. It's always kind of hard to sometimes place these players, so let's put him in midfield. Thiago, once again, excellent. One to look out for the Bayern fixture. Pulisic, we haven't talked about him in a while, but he came on and he secured that victory for Dortmund. So very good weekend for him. He makes the Team of the Week. Kimmich, excellent. He will not play against Liverpool. Liverpool fans will be happy to hear that. He is banned after receiving a second yellow card. Then in front, Haller, he came on, scored 2 goals. I mean, hard to argue against that. Lewandowski, yeah, he got a good warm-up round in the match against Wolfsburg. He loves scoring against Wolfsburg. He scores lots of goals against Wolfsburg. Did it once again. I think look out for him. I mentioned him in the preview for the Liverpool game, because although he gets a lot of goals, he has been criticized for not getting goals against big sides. So he's one to watch in general. And Paciencia, he got the opener. I love a good header. Got that header to open the scoring against Fortuna Düsseldorf. And I think overall he's been excellent. So that's our Team of the Week. Kobel, Halstenberg, Tar, Elvedi, Kruse, Thiago, Pulisic, Kimmich, Haller, Lewandowski, Paciencia.
Fantastic. And yeah, I think that's fair enough that you come together to pick a team like that, and also equally enjoy just as much that Sebastian Haller only needed 24 minutes to be part of the Team of the Week. Fantastic stuff. Guys, I think that more or less does it. It's late on a Monday night. These Monday night games get us all, don't they? So I think we'll wrap it up there because we've covered just about everything. So you're going to have plenty of football reports, previews, and so much more articles as well on the Football Grad network. Just head over to Twitter at Football Grad Live for enough football articles to fill your boots. We'd just like to say thank you very much for tuning in. As always, enjoy the European games midweek, and then we'll be back before you even know it with another Bundesliga covering podcast. I've been your host, Bryce Dunn. You can find me on Twitter at Bryce Dunn11, and until then, auf Wiedersehen.
Ich warte seit Wochen auf diesen Tag und tanz vor Freude über den Asphalt, als wär's sein Rhythmus, als gäb's ein Lied, das mich immer weiter durch die Straßen zieht. Komm dir entgegen, dich abzuholen.
Thank you for listening to Believe. You can show support to your host by subscribing to the show and giving us a 5-star rating on your preferred platform. Check us out at Believe.com and search for BLEAV on YouTube.